Welcome to the Smith Publicity All Things Book Marketing Podcast, offering tips, insights, and advice from the best in the publishing industry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the All Things Book Marketing Podcast. I am your host today, Marissa Eigenbrood, the president and partner at Smith Publicity. And today I am super excited as we talk about all things ghostwriting, no better time than the month of October, to have Kevin Anderson joining us today. Kevin Anderson is a longtime friend of Smith Publicity's, and he is the CEO and founder of Kevin Anderson and Associates. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So I'm just going to give everyone a little bit of a bio background on you first, and then we'll jump into some awesome questions and discussion points today. So Kevin Anderson is a #1 New York Times bestselling editor, a #1 national bestselling author, and an entrepreneur and founder of multiple 7- and 8-figure editorial service businesses. He's a busy guy. His flagship company, Kevin Anderson and Associates, KAA, has offices in New York, LA, Nashville, and London, and serves more than 500 authors per year while supporting a network of 500 plus freelance writers and editors. KAA's in-office staff of 30 former Big Five executive editors, literary agents, and best-selling writers have combined to produce more than 200 New York Times bestsellers, 600 national bestsellers, and launch 5,000 plus first-time authors. Some big numbers there. It's so great. Serving a wide range of celebrities, thought leaders, and inspirational authors, KAA is responsible for launching the #1 New York Times bestselling YA series, Five Nights at Freddy's by Scott Cawthon, the New York Times bestseller, Welcome to Dunder Mifflin, the ultimate oral history of The Office by actor Brian Baumgartner, and former NBC co-chairman Ben Silverman, and the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Built Not Born by multi-billionaire Tom Golisano, among many others. This also goes into Kevin's other founding businesses, and Kevin is originally from Canada, currently lives in Boston with his wife, 4 young children, and a red lab named Marbella. Kevin,
Yeah, he's around here somewhere.
He's around there.
May make an appearance.
Incredibly busy and just such an incredible career and track record within KAA. But let's go before KAA for a minute here. Tell us all about how you got into ghostwriting.
Yeah, it was never part of the plan to get into ghostwriting. It kind of just happened. One thing kind of led to another. When I was in grad school, I started working for a tutoring company. And yeah, I'll try to keep this story short. It's one that I go into a lot of detail when I'm on the business podcast. But basically, I started tutoring and just realized that I really loved it, and that instead of working for somebody else, I could do better on my own. And I started advertising for that service, and I got so busy that I had more than I could handle. So it just made sense to start hiring my friends. I was doing my graduate work at Harvard, so I had a really great network of really great potential tutors, and especially from the English and philosophy departments, and so it started out as like a tutoring business, just local to the Cambridge, Boston area. But then things online, we were advertising online. We were actually advertising through Craigslist, of all things. Yeah, and some people started finding us from other remotely and reaching out, and so at that point we and tutoring was it was tough. Every client you'd only be with for like an hour or two a week. There was like a lot of logistics issues. And then when people started reaching out online for online tutoring, it just made so much sense. So we moved in that direction pretty quickly. And then, advent of PayPal and things like that allowed us to do, make safe transactions, across the country. But anyway, we grew this core of primarily just doing editing and tutoring, but it was mostly academic related. It wasn't anything to do with books at first, or ghostwriting, of course. But one day, it was actually a small a small hybrid publisher. Actually, I would say it's more of a vanity press than what you call a publisher. Back then, there was a lot more. There was a lot more of those kind of big vanity presses. There weren't these great hybrid
Oh
presses
yeah.
like now. And anyway, they reached out and they were doing like 30 books a week. It was the kind of press that you pay like $30,000 to have a book out, and they all scratch each other's backs, and all the authors, their other authors are endorsing their book and whatnot. Anyway, they time with copy editing, so they were impressed with the Harvard credentials on our team, and they wanted us to copy edit their books. And this was a game changer for us, because we were used to tutoring and editing and looking at 10 to 50 page, like really thick academic type stuff, and editing these books. And these were really, they were not the greatest books, but they were easy to read and usually pretty poorly written, but it was a lot more fun, and it was easy, and it was much bigger projects at a time. So it just came natural to kind of transition the whole business that direction. So at some point I split up the company. I have another company that still works. It's transitioned a little bit. It just works with people in the PhD process. It's called Dissertation.
Okay.
And it has a UK office as well called Thesis Editor, because in the UK they call dissertations theses and theses dissertations. It's like the opposite.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they and that still is a staff of PhDs that work in the academic field. And then I broke off KAA to be its own thing that really just focused on the book industry. And and editing, in terms of ghostwriting, how we got there, I mean, it was just one thing led to another. So at one point they sent us a manuscript that was just in such bad shape that we said, look, we can't even edit this. Like we're not even at a point where we can make this book work editorially. Like it needs to be totally rewritten.
Totally redone.
They just said, so, well, can you rewrite it? And we'd never written a book before. No one on the team had written a book or rewrote a book. And we said, sure, yeah, we can do that. And so I found somebody that could do it, that had written books before. And then again, the price point and everything was, it was a bigger price point per ticket than what we were doing editorially. So it just made sense from a business standpoint to move in that direction. That was a long time ago. Since then, we've hired, former executive editors from Big Five houses. Most of our authors now have multiple, bestsellers in their own name. But at the time, we were just, it was really just grinding it out, and any work that we thought we could do, we would do it. And we never said no, to any opportunities. So that's where it all kind of started. Was one thing just kind of led to another.
Yeah. There's so much about those kind of earlier days. You've fallen kind of accidentally into these spaces, and it was very similar to our founder Dan's story too, of kind of working alongside someone in some other PR activities, and they were writing a book, and he said, "Hey, can you promote my book? It's self-published. Ooh, we can't touch. Nobody else wanted to touch self-published books." And Dan was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll give it a go. Sure, why not?" And it kind of all spurred, and the snowball got bigger and bigger from there too. So it's so exciting to hear that story, and the power of just saying yes and trying something new and seeing where it goes. It's not that far connected or disconnected from the other work that you were doing. It was just kind of always taking it to this next level, and seeing how it would evolve. But what incredible, again, and the journey is certainly not over. Those numbers are going to get bigger and bigger that we shared from your bio as the years go on here, Kevin, as these things continue to grow in such exciting ways for your team.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's just, and the thing about, you think about those early days, right? You're just saying yes, but you're making sure you're taking responsibility to do it, right? I wouldn't always have the plan, but I always had the confidence and also the responsibility to make sure that I was going to deliver on that. So, on the phone with the publisher, you're saying, of course we can do that, which means, of course, I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. But I don't know exactly how right now. And then, that just led to discovering writers and freelancers and figuring out the whole business. And that's really how we got publishing all together. I mean, it was all a learn as we went. We didn't come from a publishing background as a company. It's something that we really learned as we went. And I felt like that really was a big advantage to us, because we could really speak our author's language, because a lot of the people that are coming to us, they have no idea about the publishing industry. They don't understand it. They're afraid of, it's very big and complicated, and they don't want to make a mistake. but we had to learn all those things, ourselves, kind of the hard way. And we came at it from
Sure.
perspective that looked at a lot of different elements of, like, it wasn't just marketing or just writing. I mean, we were really looking at, okay, what's the big picture here for this author, and how can we think about the right book for them, write that book in a way, and then figure out how to publish it in a way that's going to meet their their publishing goals and be of value to them. So we didn't know, none of us came from that background in publishing, so we had to just really we learned it all on our own, through experience. So yeah, we feel like that's a good asset that we have for our clients, because we figured it out. And so we're the kind of a good teacher to show them the ropes, having done it ourselves so many times from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we love working with you guys too, because we had that same background. There was no publishing in the mix over
Right.
here. Most of us didn't, even the current team, most did not come from traditional publishing and such. And I think that it's, I love that anytime your team maybe bring someone our way, or because we're having a conversation the other way too, of just, it's looking at things in a very holistic approach. It's really thinking about, okay, we're not just writing a book here, and
Right.
we're not, and I think that there is still a little bit of a disconnect, truly, and transparently, like, there's a disconnect, I think, in traditional publishing, and with some agents still, there's like an old school mentality of, we're just kind of thinking about a book that's going to sell, and not how is it going to sell, who is it going to be sold to. It's just like, how do we make this as appealing to everyone as possible? And I think in today's world, especially, in the power of really niching down and such, the more you're thinking about from the very beginning, how do I write a book, then publish it, then market it in a way that's going to really speak to a specific audience. It's not going to, it's not going to welcome everybody in right away, but it's also not going to shut out other people. So there's an opportunity to still grow that connection. I always really loved seeing that your team is so much more than just ghostwriting and editing, and it really is, again thinking about things from that holistic perspective.
Yeah, and
It benefits us because we don't
navigate.
get a chance to control it that early on.
Right.
I say to so many people, I'm like, I'm always happy to have a conversation with someone, because if I can just plant those seeds about marketing and publicity, we're the last shoe to drop at the end. So we love our advocates on the early side who are planting those seeds and thinking about what it's going to look like on the other end of this whole thing when we try to get people to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that, and I mean, I think that's why so many people come to us, is just to help navigate, when do I start thinking about marketing? It's not the first thing you should start thinking about, but it certainly shouldn't be the last one either. And you take a holistic approach to the whole thing when you're planning your whole book writing and publishing journey. You don't need to have every single step mapped out, but it's good to have a big picture, and know when the pieces, what pieces need to be put in place and in what timing. So that, and that, again, that was another need that, that we just saw. Like, at first we were just doing writing and editing, just really focused on the manuscript itself. But we just realized that so many clients needed, like, they didn't know what to do next with the book. They didn't know, like, what direction they should take it in, or and how to get an agent, how to, like, what hybrid like, what's the difference between a hybrid publisher, a self-publisher, and a vanity press, and also, even when you've decided on the best publishing option, there's just so many different companies, and some of them, there's a lot of bad actors in our space, and so just navigating that to make sure that they're getting a really, so just navigating that whole industry we just saw that as such a big need for our clients. And because they were coming to us at a stage where they haven't even started writing their book, we really felt like we were in an advantageous place to just help them see the big picture, give them the confidence and direction to make sure that they're going to get what they want out of this whole thing. So yeah, it's a fun place to be at, in their journey, and really kind of, it feels great too, where you just know that you can help someone get from, achieve their goal and see the big picture without, getting involved with a bad actor or making mistakes. I think that's a lot of times people that charge into this thing on their own, they end up spending a lot of time or money doing something that if they would have had somebody helping them in the very beginning to kind of see the big picture, a lot of time and money going in the wrong direction. So
absolutely,
that's where we come in to try to help direct that.
You do. It's so great. And that's, these different layers of the conversation with an author. That's certainly got to be a space where it is so beneficial to have a team that you're working with. So in your case, a ghostwriting firm, versus a freelancer, that you've got
Right.
different experiences, perspective in the mix. But what are some of the other things you would say are, and we get the same question on the PR side, well, why should I work with you as an agency versus a PR freelancer? And again,
Right.
there's a lot of minds, there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of people involved here. So from your perspective, what are some of those other, key values that come with working with a firm versus a kind of a freelancer, an independent person directly in the ghostwriting
Yeah.
stage?
Yeah, and it's not for everybody either. Like, some people do well with just a one-on-one with a freelancer, but a lot of people, especially a lot of our clients that are busy professionals, or that just want, I mean, it's so less risky when you're working with a firm than with just an individual writer. Because I mean, and it could be no fault of anyone's, but anything can happen in a one-on-one relationship. They might,
Of course.
their life might change. There might be something that comes up that doesn't allow them to continue. There are some freelancers that do take on more than what they can handle, and then so you become, you might become a little less prioritized than their clients. And so with a firm, you have it's a lot less risk because if anything happens with the primary writer, we can replace them with a different writer, and you still have a whole team that understands
Sure.
your project, knows the big goals, understands the material. We have transcripts, we have entire outlines. You have editors that are on the team that are working alongside the whole process. So when if we do need to replace, have a new writer come in, and it could be for any reason, it's even just, like not every marriage works out, right?
Right.
But at certain points, you want to be able to make sure that you're not losing all of the stuff that you've got up to that point. And so, we really allow that transition to be a lot smoother than having to go and find a new freelancer, a new contract, possibly lose some of your equity in the projects you've been developing, and just the time that goes into all of that. So that's one of the major advantages. The other is just the power of having multiple professionals and experience on your team. If you have when you have an editor that's published and edited multiple New York Times bestselling books and has been in the industry for a long time, and you have their experience on board with you through every stage, right from the very beginning planning stage. I mean, some of our editors have edited and published more than 600 books through traditional publisher as a traditional publisher. And so you have that kind of experience working with you all along the way to make sure that your book is making sense, that it's holding together, and that it's going to be something that readers want to read. And then, of course, just the keeping the trains on time, element, having a project manager that's, it's good to have, there's a reason why you have a conductor of an orchestra, I mean, it's good to have someone that's keeping all the creative people online on the right schedule, making sure that all the parts and pieces are fitting together properly and it's moving forward. So those things we just find just have a lot of value, add a lot of value to that process that you just don't get in a one-on-one relationship.
Sure. Yeah, creatives, as we know, we can certainly go off track sometimes with things and big ideas and run in all directions. So it is so helpful to have that accountability and those timelines to stick to. Again, always kind of working toward those end goals that someone has in mind, and those backup layers of support. So Kevin, you were a big part of it. Our team was too, of the first ever Gathering of the Ghosts event earlier this year, which was just such an exciting exposing fully of the ghostwriting world. I don't think it's necessarily always been, I think recently it's not been as behind the scenes as it was in many years past, but it's been this constant kind of, we're talking about our ghostly theme here, like coming out of the shadows more and more and more. And so, I'd really love to hear kind of what you feel some of the biggest changes in ghostwriting has been in recent years, and maybe even kind of looking ahead too. I'd just love to see that those who are putting, so much effort and work into this are being accredited as part of the projects more and more. There seems to be a lot more openness to sharing that someone is using a ghostwriter and such. And of course, so many people read the big, piece about Prince Harry's memoir and the ghostwriting connected there. So we'd just love to hear, in reflection of a big event like that, for bringing
Yeah,
all of the ghostwriters out of the shadows,
yeah.
and together in New York City, and kind of what you see ahead for the space in publishing.
Yeah, it was a great event to be a part of, and I was really happy to contribute. And I mean, you're bang on though. I mean, that's the biggest change, I think. It's just been people. There's just been a lot. Yeah, ghostwriters. I feel like 15, 20 years ago, it was just it's just taken for granted that the ghostwriter would not be mentioned, and there was just a stigma about, like, it was like people really they didn't want you to know. They'd be really embarrassed and feel like they're
Mhm.
cheating or something
Mm.
if they found out that
Yeah.
you're a ghostwriter. And a lot of that comes from just a real lack of understanding about what a ghostwriter is. And also a lack of understanding that every book is a team effort. There's no book out there. I mean, whether it's Ernest Hemingway or Shakespeare, I mean, there is nothing's
Mhm.
been written that hasn't been edited or worked on or had some kind of process that involves more than one person. So
Mhm.
obviously, ghostwriting is an extreme version of that. But people, I think, when they thought about ghostwriting back then, at least, it was just they assumed that almost was like, you just kind of said, "Hey, ghostwriter, write me a book about this topic and get back to me with it, in a couple months, and then I'll just put my name and stamp
Yeah.
on it, and it'll be mine." And that's just, anyone who's been through the process knows that it is not that. The whole process is
Right.
really mining the brain of the author, and being that kind of sophisticated pen, like, that voice, and figuring out and you're part psychologist, you're part writer. I mean, there's so many elements to it, but all of the information is coming from the author, so it's really the author's 100% the
Mhm.
author's book. And there's just been this understanding recently, especially the last like 10-15 years, just moving towards people be understanding that and seeing more credits on the front covers of books, understanding that it's a collaboration, and that people, I mean, it's just, people, I think, just starting to realize when they're seeing some of these authors, even like James Patterson, et cetera, with so many books
Mm.
coming out, or even like a busy CEO that has all these books, like, how are they
Yeah.
having time? Because writing a book takes, so many hours to write a book. Like, obviously they're getting some help with the parts and pieces that they're not necessarily professionals in, right?
Mhm.
A CEO is an expert in a lot in the things that they're doing, as in leadership or with their company, but they're not, unlikely that they're a professional writer. So just like you hire an accountant to do your taxes, you hire a writer to make sure that your book is well written. It's still all your ideas, still all your thoughts. It's all your content. It's all you. You're still the author. And I just
Yeah.
think, yeah, that understanding. So we've always really pushed, right from the beginning. We've always kind of pushed our clients to give credit to the writers, whether
That's
it's,
great.
even if it's just an editorial credit, just some
Sure.
kind of credit where because otherwise, and you would get this a lot 15 years ago too, where a lot of writers would be like, "Oh, I'm a ghostwriter. I've written many published books, many bestsellers. I can't tell you any of them. I can't tell you anyone I've worked with because of
Yeah.
confidentiality." And it's like, okay, well, like, like, how can I mean, I'm not an untrusting person, but how do I know? Like, I have no idea, like, what your work is like, other than getting like a writing sample or something. But that doesn't really tell the whole story, that you've been
Mhm.
working on the whole project. Or so
Yeah.
it's really important that writers are able to have some sort of credit, some kind of, that they're able to show a body of work. And so
Mhm.
that's been a really great thing for writers of this shift, because now more and more they are pushing for it. They're getting credit. They're getting some kind of acknowledgement, if not cover credit, and they're able to just add it to their list. And they can even, we always tell writers, is even just ask for any kind of acknowledgement, and then you can have that list of your titles that you've worked with, and you can say
Mm.
something to the effect, "Look, here's all the titles I've been acknowledged in. Some of these I've ghostwritten. Some of them I was just an editor in it. I can't
Yeah.
tell you which ones necessarily. I can tell you these three I definitely ghostwrote, because they allowed me to take that credit. But the rest of these I've been editorial involved. But at least gives you a sense of their body of work. So that's a big game changer. And I think because of that, I think you've definitely seen, and this is another change, the rates have definitely increased dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
Like the
Mhm.
top 15, 20 years ago, the top ghostwriters were charged, well, other than like the the J.M. Moringers of the world, the top ghostwriters, if you're going to go look online and you were going to find like the best ghostwriters, and you were seeing what the price categories were, at the very top might have like $60,000, like $75,000, if it wasn't like some like real well-established famous writer already.
Kind of, yeah, on the peripheral here. Yeah.
Right. And now that's I mean, we sell projects into $300,000-$400,000, and it's not unusual.
Yeah.
I know lots of ghostwriters that are regularly, even as an individual freelancer, are regularly charging, 200 to 350, end up. And the ones that are really at the top level, like if you got J.R. Moringer, who's, at this point, he's just, that's like a whole nother category just because of what he's done, and like how his books have done. And he's a great writer. So, but he's at another category, but the next level down is a whole bunch of great, like Dan Paisner and Michelle Burfer. There's a whole bunch of incredible ghosts that and their rates are regularly in the 3 to even $500,000 range. So that's definitely something that's skewed, like the inflation on ghostwriters. And like I said, I think it has to do a lot of these are able to get credit, and you can show them a list. Like you can show that you worked with these celebrities,
right?
Which drives, which allows you to get a much higher price for your work.
Yeah, I mean, you get a chance to bolster that resume up and have those examples and see, however many might have bestseller or this or that attached to them, and it just, it's hard to not want to go after something that's going to help you achieve your goals too, and bring that right team into the mix. But yeah, it's certainly, I think, again, we're seeing this across the board, and with the publishing industry as a whole, is just the inflation of it all, and the kind of growing, not just the prices, but just the overall strategy that I think someone and the mindset and coming into a book project, they need to have in mind of like, this is a big thing I'm committing to. I'm committing to a significant investment here financially. But as you say, from ghostwriting all the way through the entire process, you're committing your time too. Even if you are paying $300, $400, $500,000, for someone to write your book for you, you're still very much a part of this process. And it is just, this entire thing is a commitment unlike what it's been in years past. I think when I started at Smith, there just was like, oh, you want to write a book? You want to go talk about it? Yeah, it's fine. Just go do that. And, you didn't have to think about all these other layers of who do I need to be through which platforms and at what points, when, along the way. And it's just, there's so much more to the entire process than there's ever been before. So again, having the right people to guide you is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get a lot of thought leaders and business clients that for them it's an investment because it has a good ROI for a lot of them. I mean, it's something, the book really shows thought leadership, shows authority in the space. It's easy to market a book, and it looks good on your website, looks good on your LinkedIn. I mean, it also helps to, I mean, a book can have great value for your company, or for just like consolidating your thoughts into a single, a single book that you can give out to thousands of people instead of having a conversation thousands of times. I mean, we're seeing a lot of, and I think because there's so many, there is such, like, that has really risen, just this, and then we've seen the rise of the hybrid publisher for exactly this reason, right? Because a lot of times it's not book sales. That's like, the book sales is not the ROI for these clients. In fact, book sales, I mean, a lot of them, financially, I mean, even if they did have a bestseller, the amount of money that they would earn from it wouldn't really be a life-changing thing anyway. And it's really hard to make money on books.
Exactly. Yeah.
Books are a terrible investment if you're looking at just like, book sales. You
making money from books. Yeah.
Go to the S&P if you're just looking for, but if it's
totally agree.
On book sales, but if the investment is in what it does for you, your platform, your authority in the space, like, can you get, like, if you spend $250,000 on a book over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years, are you going to earn back $250,000 of clients of value or whatever it is that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Speaking fees. Yep.
Right. All of these things, and the book lasts forever, like 20, 30 years from now, if Google's still around, you Google your name, that book is gonna be one of the first things that comes up. And if you hit the bestseller list like that, now, 30 years from now, you're still, New York Times bestselling author or USA Today bestselling author, national bestselling author, whatever it is. So those things have big value. And so I think that's also part of what has increased the value and price point on these things, just because those things have such value and they last a long time. I mean, and so you want to make sure that if you're going to go do this, you're going to be working with the very best. And if you're going to have that kind of investment, that you're going to be working with people that have had success in before. So, but we do see a lot of that. And the rise of the hybrid. I mean, the rise of the hybrid has been like the ghostwriting and hybrid publishing have both really co-benefited because hybrid publishing, of course, is giving the opportunity for someone. A publisher publishes books. It's a business that is based on selling books, right? Like a traditional publisher. If the book doesn't sell, that's a fail. That book has failed. With the hybrid publisher, it's totally different model. You're paying for the publishing. That way, that's giving anyone an access point. So any business or whatever, they can get the book, they can get it professionally published, written, etc. They have a hybrid publisher publish it, and they're checking all their boxes of what the book is for them, what the ROI, what the value is for them, without having to prove to a publisher that the book is going to sell 10,000 or more copies. So the hybrid publisher, the rise of that, because before the publishers, they were really garbage. They were really terrible. 20 years ago, not very many good hybrid pay to play publishers, but now they do a really good job. They're high quality. The editorial quality is really, really high. So you're able to check all the boxes of what you're looking for in a book, and the guarantee that you can make it happen. So having that kind of real professional hybrid publisher has really spiked ghostwriting business, because it's given so many more people now have a way to get the book out there in a way that they're proud of and that's going to serve their goals. So that's definitely brought a lot of business to ghostwriting.
Yeah, and we've seen on our side, on the other side as well, and just we've done everything so far. Now we need to get it out there to the market, and we are huge fans of the hybrid. It's actually a big part of kind of our evolution as a company too, and starting off with working with independently published authors, and hey, that one tries out hybrid for the first time, and then that one worked with Wiley for the first time, let's just say, and then we got to know the Wiley. So it's just, that's been a big part of our evolution too. But I love seeing that, again, when you're making that investment in ghostwriting, there was, like you said before, this question mark of I'm making this investment, but I don't know if it's going to get published.
Right.
I don't know if anybody's going to pick it up. And am I making the right choice here if it doesn't get published on the other side? And now there is this fantastic option. And I mean, there's, you said, so many fantastic hybrids that are out there, but I love too that there is that, that control over intellectual property too. So you still have that really strong brand alignment and that clarity in your messaging and how that continues moving forward. You everything from timing sometimes of when it comes out to just, and also again, still working to achieve certain book centric goals, whether it's a bestseller or whatever it might be, but also, not necessarily all of the pressure that traditional publishing can bring of what publication date does, what's going to happen at publication date, but it's also that ability to keep that energy and the momentum going well after, which when we think about the ROI that we're discussing, that where you're actually going to make money, it's going to be the long term. It's going to be the 20, 15, 20, 30 years to get that overall return back in all of those business opportunities, speaking fees, so on and so forth. And so I love that the hybrid supports the more author and brand goals. Then I think, I see some traditional publishers starting to shift a little bit in their ways of doing things, their mentalities around it. But the hybrid publishing just really offers that that great support for like I said, a lot of thought leaders, speakers, and such that we get to work with who are coming in with. And rarely do I talk to someone when I ask, "What are your goals for this project?" Do they say New York Times bestseller? I heard I heard bestseller a lot more. Wall Street Journal was still around, but I rarely hear bestseller anymore. The first goal that comes out of someone's mouth is, I want this book to elevate my platform, my presence, my expertise. I want it to help me elevate my speaking fees. I want it to ideally bring attention back into these workshops I facilitate, the courses I teach, you know, whatever else is kind of living in their brand ecosystem. So that's music to my ears a lot of the time. Again, let's go for the bestsellers. Let's work toward those goals together if we have them in mind. But I love thinking about the long-term impact that we can have in
Right.
that work together, and that ultimately is going to help to kind of circle back and cover that investment and hopefully a lot more in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and you know what's really nice about it is that you just know, like you can you can do the whole, you can map it all out, right? You know you're going to get published. So like, you know, maybe 25 years ago, your options, if you're not going to get published. So let's say you're starting out, you want to write a book, but you don't know that it's a publisher going to pick it up. So and if you can't write it, now you're investing all this money into a writer to help work with you to write this book, without any assurance that that book is actually going to get published at all, right? So there's a big question mark and risk factor there. And your only backup option is a really terrible vanity press that everyone's going to laugh at you because it's so low quality, and you know they've messed up the binding and you know whatever it is. I mean, they were really bad. And also everyone knew, like if it had that label on it, everyone knew, like, oh, that's you just paid to have that published, and it was really looked down upon. But now you can start from the very beginning. You can know with certainty that you're going to have a good publisher, that it's going to get out there. You can do your whole timeline. Like with traditional publishing, timeline can be tricky because you don't know how long it's going to take you to get made. How long it's going to take you to get the publishing deal. Once you get the deal, the publisher, you might be like a year and a half out, 2 years maybe, before that book actually come out. Whereas with hybrids, you can accelerate that whole thing. I mean, we've done books where from 0 to publication was 6 months. That includes writing the book. You know, like you really condense the timeline, and you have all these assurances, so you can start with complete confidence that you're going to be able to achieve your publishing goals, which is a game changer compared to what it used to be. And a lot of our business is like, a lot of people, they're like, okay, I want to go traditional publishing, we'll do the book proposal, but then they know they have this backup plan, right? So they'll still, it doesn't stop them from traditional publishing. We'll still do the proposal, pitch it, agent or agent it ourselves. But then at least you know that if plan A doesn't work out, you've got a really solid plan B. So there's all these assurances that you just, you know, that you didn't have before. So that's definitely a game changer.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So Kevin, I have one last quick question for you, and then we're going to wrap up today. What is one key point of advice or one question you would encourage an author to ask or to bring up when they're working on finding the right ghostwriter for their project? What's that one key thing that you think is most important for the author to consider when they're finding that right partner in those early stages?
Yeah, you know, I would say I mean, chemistry is definitely key. I mean, you got to have someone that you work well with. But I think the caution there is find someone that you work well with, but that also pushes you, right? I mean, you want to have someone that's really digging, that really draws out your inconsistencies, that can really see what, you know, the things that you're not seeing, and bring that out and put it all together. You know, when you're interviewing writers, which is you know, and you're looking at their list, obviously, you know, make sure in this day and age, you should never be hiring a writer that doesn't have a list of some titles that they can point to that's going to give you confidence, unless you're on a very low budget, which you know, I understand, and that's a whole nother approach to getting a writer. But if you have the budget for a ghostwriter, do not, like, make sure you're like, they should have titles. They should have titles that you can trust, that you can look up and see that there's sales and reviews, and that there's, you know, or it's somebody from a business that's notable. Like they should have some titles that speak to their professionalism in the industry. So that's like a baseline. Make sure that's there. But then after that, when you're interviewing them, you know, who's like, I think the number one advice is go with chemistry first, but with a caveat of, like, make sure it's someone, like, the chemistry should be someone that's making you think, that's bringing you to the next level. That's not just like a social experience for you. Like, they might get along really well, but that doesn't necessarily make them the best writer. So that's what I mean by chemistry. But yeah, that'd be my advice.
So important. Love it. It's so important. You've got to find that strong partner but experience in your space certainly is critical there too. And wonderful. Well, Kevin, this has been such a great conversation. I had like a bunch of other questions that I could have asked here too. We could have just kept going forever.
Next time.
And absolutely, it's always great speaking with you. Again, I hope everybody has learned here today. We share a lot of similar understandings and values and perspectives in this world of publishing, and I continue to give so much credit to anyone who is willing to embark on the author journey. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not an easy one. It comes with many decisions along the way, and I can't think of a better place to start than with you and your team and getting that process underway. So thank you so much for joining us today. Where do you want people to go to learn more about you, KAA? Where's the best places?
Yeah, our website is probably the best. KAWriting.com. So KA writing, like writing a book.com. And yeah, but we're really accessible, available, call, email, whatever. We're happy to hop on a call, and there's no charge to get on a call and just have a free consultation about the industry and your book and what we can do to help. And we're very realistic with what your options are, and we serve all publishing models, so we're very agnostic in terms of which publishing model that authors want to use, but we have experience and success in all of them. So yeah, we're happy to give kind of unbiased advice.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. Excited for everyone to tune in here and learn more in the conversation, as well as in connecting with your team afterwards. For everyone who has been listening in today, you can please subscribe and tune into some of our other episodes as well. You can learn more about Smith Publicity at smithpublicity.com. Really appreciate y'all being here, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Smith Publicity All Things Book Marketing Podcast. To reach us and learn about our many services, visit smithpublicity.com or send us an email to info@smithpublicity.com.